Good morning, Buckeye Blitzers. Welcome into the Buckeye Blitz podcast. I'm your host, Chad Stryker. Welcome to the first ever Buckeye Blitz podcast. I am just a regular dude. I'm not an insider. I don't have a press pass. I'm not a journalist. And I certainly am not inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. I'm just a regular guy who some friends and family encouraged to do a podcast about Ohio State football because I really enjoy discussing and talking about Ohio State football from a regular average Joe's perspective. So welcome, thanks for listening, thanks for viewing, I appreciate it. So I entitled today the 2-minute drill. Really probably take me about 10 minutes to get through it, but it's really because I had 2 points. The point one is NIL versus NFL, and then the second point is around our upcoming quarterback battle between Lincoln Kingholtz, Devin Brown, and Kyle McCord. So firstly, I'd like to address the NIL versus NFL and what Ohio State is or is not doing. From a blimp view, I see Gene Smith as, wanting to help, but not sure how to help because his job is athletic director for the Ohio State University, not the Ohio State football team. So he's looking at it from a perspective of I have to make all these different budgets work for the various athletic department teams. And so football, by and large, far and away, brings in the most revenue. It's not even close. But that helps pay for travel and lodging and other things for lacrosse and swim and tennis and all the other smaller revenue sports. And I'm not demeaning those sports. I love all sports. The simple fact is we live in Ohio, and in Ohio, especially at Ohio State, football reigns supreme. So I know some schools have less sports to support, especially in the South, it seems like, and I think there's only one other Power 5 school that supports as many scholarship sports as Ohio State does. They have a lot that they do, and kudos to them. However, circling up as to why this matters, Gene Smith stated when he did an interview with Austin Ward, he needs to talk to donors before they split or pull their donations in favor of giving money to a collective. So the foundation or some of the other collectives that are out there. By the way, I donate to the foundation. They heard us. They listen to us. It's not a plug for them. I don't work with them. I'm not, in any way associated to them. But they did do the recurring donation. It is a nonprofit, so I chose to do a recurring donation to them. I hope you do too. But as I mentioned earlier, the reason I'm saying this is Gene's focus is not just football. It is all of Ohio State athletics. So he is trying to explain to the boosters and the folks that are donating what ramifications are if they split or pull their donation in favor of NIL and donating to the collective. Therefore, he's saying, we won't be able to finance this trip or these set of ice skates or whatever it is if they pull that. And I understand from Gene's perspective, he's trying to do what's best for Ohio State. However, we need to get on the bus with NIL. Michigan has a big NIL thing coming. In fact, one of the insiders I listened to yesterday said once Ohio State sees this, they should copy it, is exactly what he said from a Michigan insider. So that in and of itself, it looms large in my mind. So what we need to do, and I know Gene won't, probably do this, but we either need to partner with the collectives, acknowledge that, and somehow rework the budget to where he's going out and asking for donations for specific sports teams. So the baseball team needs X, donor X, I need you to donate $12,000, this is what we need. And divvy out, and agree that some of that donor money and encourage those donors to donate to the foundation, donate to the other collectives so that we can keep up with the NIL. Or we're going to fall behind. Like I said, football carries the bulk of the weight, but we have to have help from the athletic department. We have to have agreement from the athletic department. I would love to see, and I've seen some other folks mention this, Roosters and the Schottenstein Center and at the Horseshoe and around Columbus at other sporting events or athletic sponsored events and signings where there's QR codes where you can scan your phone and donate one time to NIL collectives, especially if there's people there, a la CJ Stroud or Jackson Smith and Jigba or any of those other folks that are doing signings that are doing well from NIL, that, hey, like, there's a QR code on the table right next to that. Bam, here's $10, and that matters. And that, I think, would go a long way for the athletic department to agree to do that and help the NIL. Secondly, the other option I would say for Gene Smith is that I'm going on record is agree that football is number one. I dropped my papers, but ask donors to split donations with the collectives and possibly reduce the number of scholarship sports that there are. I don't think that's the right thing to do. I don't, Ohio State is a world-class sports sports collegiate organization. I don't want them to reduce the number of sports. I'm not a proponent of it. My son plays tennis, baseball, football. I respect the game of tennis, but at a collegiate level, it's not as big of a revenue booster as, let's say, football, obviously. At the top, I mentioned NIL versus NFL. Some kids, dependent on their situation, NIL may not matter as much to someone like Brandon Innes, who came here to be developed by wide receiver U, to be developed by Coach Hartline, and basically took deferred money for the NFL. He's saying, I'm going to defer that money, the $750,000, $1 million, whatever, right now, and I'm going to go get my rookie contract in the NFL for $25 million, and that's okay. But some kids can't pass up that $5 million. That's life-changing money for anybody. And so let's say, right now, that $5 million over the course of 3 years at, let's say $1.3 million for NIL for new recruits. Right now, that's hard to come by because Ryan Day has said he needs $13 million just for the existing class that he has to keep it maintained. So at this point, what I think Ohio State needs to do is find a middle ground. They have to find some way to pay these 5-star recruits and keep our roster intact. And part of the reason I'm saying this is because Ohio State is an NFL factory. You come to Ohio State to get to the league. And part of the reason they're able to do that is because they get top 5, top 10, top 15 kids at each skill position for their recruiting. And if you're not getting those studs, those dudes, those top 5, 10, 15 recruits at each position, it becomes harder to keep that pipeline going. So, yeah, those guys come in and they're athletic freaks. They're the best of the best at their position in high school coming out. So you coach them up, you get them stronger, you prepare them physically and mentally for the league, and in 3 years they're ready to go and they get drafted. But, 3 stars, 2 stars, 3 stars, it takes time to develop. And I'm not saying that a 3-star can't develop into an amazing player a la Chris Olave. Absolutely can happen, without a doubt. But those are fewer and far between, and they're not as easy to hit on as you would be as if you're getting those 5-star recruits. And I'm not saying all stars matter. I'm just saying that, boy, when you have those freak athletes, it's a whole lot easier to coach them up, get them ready, with Coach Hartline, Coach Day, Coach Dennis, Coach Johnson, and keep that pipeline going. Because if recruiting dips and you're not getting those guys and your pipeline shrinks, over time your recruiting is going to take a dip and it's going to hurt and your program is going to deteriorate. So we have to find a way to find a happy medium. Secondly, and this will be a little bit of a shorter thing, the starting quarterback position. There has been a slow change with Coach Ryan Day and the way he's been, and Coach Dennis with the way they've been recruiting. And I know that it may seem small, but it's something. So we saw in the championship game the way that CJ ran, and especially that last run to set up the almost game-winning field goal. But since he recruited CJ and Jack Miller, and Miller's gone on, obviously, he has now and Kyle McCord as well. He has now recruited Lincoln Keenholz and Devin Brown, both of whom are fairly mobile and pretty athletic quarterbacks. They're not statuesque pocket passers the way you would think of Kyle, Jack, and CJ. And I'm not saying CJ isn't athletic-ish. I'm not saying that Kyle isn't athletic-ish. But what I am saying is they aren't Justin Fields. Can't ask them to be. They are. Justin Fields was a once in a lifetime transitional talent. Like, he was just an amazing generational player. And so I didn't expect Stroud to do that. I don't expect Devin Brown to do that. I certainly don't expect Kyle McCord to do that. But what I do think they can be is similar to Joe Burrow when it breaks down, make a play, or J.J. McCarthy for that team up north. Very similar to that. So that's been that change, that direction where Day didn't want a quarterback that would run, and now he has a couple that can run. Which leads me to the fact that I do expect a true quarterback battle between Devin Brown and Kyle McCord. No one's asked me. They're not going to ask me. But I would roll, unless it's like absolutely just head and shoulders above the rest, unless Kyle's head and shoulders above the rest of them, I would roll with Devin Brown. You're going to get 2 years out of him, because he'll have to have another year after this year before he can declare for the draft. Kyle, if he has a great year, he could be gone. And we've all seen what Ryan Day's quarterbacks do in the second year under he and Coach Dennis. So, and I like the fact that Devin Brown, he can run his own read. He's physical. He's 6'3". He's got a good deep ball. I think I don't know if you can go wrong with either quarterback, but my fear is if you go with Kyle, Devin's going to transfer. I'm 99% sure he's going to be out. And so that leads me to think you would have to bring in some sort of game manager, transfer portal type dude, a la Chris Jugganoff, behind Justin Fields if something were to happen to Kyle. And I know that if Devin wins, then Kyle's going to transfer. We know that's just the state that we live in. That's the way things are. But I would roll the dice and take 2 years of Devin Brown over 1 year of Kyle McCord. That's just me. That's where I'm at. That's what I'm thinking. So that's it. That's my spiel for the day. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Like I said, I'm just a dude just trying to talk a little bit Ohio State football. So I thank you for watching. Like and subscribe for more. I'm going to try to do this weekly, and I'm going to try to do 2 to 3 topics each week for around 10 minutes. So thank you. Have a good day, Blitzers.